Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 79 of Dial the Gate. My name is David Reed. Thanks so much for spending some of your Sunday with us. We have Sally Malcolm, Fandemonium founder and novelist, Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis books. Before we bring Sally in, I would like to invite you to share this with a Stargate friend. If you like Stargate and want to see more content like this on YouTube, it would mean a great deal if you click the like button. It really makes a difference with YouTube's algorithm and will definitely help the show grow its audience. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click the subscribe icon. Giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. This is key if you plan on watching live. And clips from this live stream will be released over the course of the next several days on both the Dial the Gate and gateworld.net YouTube channels. As with most of our episodes, this is another live show. Sally is joining us from the UK, as many of our viewers are. So now I appreciate her time shift. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have a Q&A with her, and then I'm going to invite everyone who's watching on youtube.com/dialthegate to submit questions to our moderating team, and they're going to get those over to me. And so that's how we roll with these episodes. Sally Malcolm, Fandemonium founder, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me. It's really exciting to be here.
It's a pleasure. You know, I mean, we've been corresponding for 15 years now,
Yeah.
more, and it's like, so it's
well,
good.
yeah.
It's good to finally see your face.
I know.
I think this is the first time. Were you ever at a GateCon? Any of the ones in Vancouver?
I did. I went to one in Vancouver.
Did we cross paths?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. It's been so long.
I'm trying to think which year it was.
Right. Well, regardless, it's really good to have you on. We've got an accumulation of you said more than 60 titles over the course of when was the first when did Trial by Fire come out? Sabine's book.
So that would have been 2004.
Wow.
I know. It's funny because I had a similar conversation. I met with Carol at MGM, who you probably know.
Yes. Absolutely.
We did a Zoom just the other day.
Oh, good.
Same thing. We hadn't actually sort of met face to face. So I guess this is one of the silver linings of the whole pandemic situation, is that everyone's got onto Zoom.
Correct.
So we met with her and we had the same conversation, and we worked out that I know it was 18 years ago when I started, because my son at the time was just a couple of months old and he just turned 18. So
wow. How time has flown. Has it been a rewarding experience going through releasing all these books over the years and all of this material and trying to keep it all on the straight and narrow in terms of Stargate canon and everything else?
It's been quite the ride. I mean, I was a huge Stargate fan to start with, obviously. So that's really what it came out of. I was writing Stargate fan fiction, and just in a strange, out of the blue moment, we came up with this idea of maybe we could do some books. And over the last 18 years, we've managed to, we've been to GateCon, we went to Chicago, we've been to Baltimore, meeting fans, we've been to London Comic Con a couple of times. That's what I love. I love doing that. I love going out, talking to readers, and they come up and like, yes, this book, I've been waiting for this. Or that's been just so much fun. And people saying, thanks for keeping it going, because obviously I think we were in season 7 of SG-1 when we began. And, so we kept going when, after that finished, after Atlantis finished, after Universe finished, and we're still here.
Still trucking along. Really, I know.
Yeah.
It's like Darren in Gateworld. Darren made the comment. I can't remember when it was, but regardless, he said, depending on your definition, he said, I've been working on Stargate longer than Brad and Rob have. And I was like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And Sally, I think you are a part of that crew at this point.
Yeah,
so
really. Yeah, exactly.
Man.
Yeah, amazing.
So
yeah.
So you guys just Had you had publishing experience before this really took off? What was what do you think
Well,
what was the impetus that allowed MGM to take a chance on you?
I just think it was one of those pieces of cosmic good luck, to be honest. We, my husband is a journalist. At the time, he was already a journalist. But neither of us had any book publishing experience. He was an editor, magazine editor, so he knew that side of the business. I remember it so vividly. I was sitting on the stairs at home with my son, who was like 3 months old, and we were saying, why are there no Stargate novels? There's Star Trek novels, and we looked up, and there had been a couple that had been released previously.
Of SG-1, there were, was it two, I think?
Yeah,
the Morpheus Factor and something else.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And that was it. That was all that was around. And at that point, that
movie novels.
And the novelizations of the movie.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, I know a lot of fan fiction writers, and they're really good. Let's just give it a shot. So we composed a fax. This is how long ago it was, and faxed MGM. This is what we found out online to do. We did look it up, but obviously the internet had existed, and we sent them a fax. And to our complete shock, the very next day, we got a message back saying, "Yeah, we're interested. Come into our London office." And at that point, they had an office in a place called Richmond upon Thames, which is close to where we live.
Wow.
And so I was at home with the baby. So Tom went in and had a meeting with a guy there. And yeah, they said, sure, okay, well, we could do something, put together some, some figures and come back to us, which we did. And yeah, and it initially started with just the UK rights. But we expanded that over the years to doing more. So I don't know what made them take the chance on us. We were fans of the show, and no one else was doing it, I think. So I guess it was just an amazing piece of luck.
I mean, it just goes to show that if you have a vision and you have the wherewithal to see it through, because people have been getting in touch with me for years and saying, can I have the contact info for so-and-so at MGM? I want to pitch something. Yeah. And it's like, don't come this way. I mean, you have to know. I mean, if you're coming to me, something's wrong. So, there's just not everyone can pull off something like you guys have pulled off. There is a commitment to following through on something like this. It is an exhausting amount of work. I have pitched, frankly, full disclosure, I have pitched to you a few years ago, and we went through how many iterations, and it didn't come about, and that's just how it is. There is a process at play. You have an expectation of a certain level of quality and a certain framework from which you have to work in. Because what's interesting for you guys is not only do you have to follow 350 episodes of continuity, you have to follow your continuity. Because your continuity in the novels is also completely internally consistent. Am I right?
I think it is mostly. We have series of books where there's a continuity. Because I've come from fan fiction, the world of fan fiction, which I love and I still love, where you have this creation, you have the original source material, the show or whatever the fandom is around. And then people can dip into that, and they can say, well, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And I love that, because you can be really creative. And that's one of the things I love so much about fan fiction. We're a bit more limited in that, because obviously we can't change things irrevocably, except with one series of books, which we may get onto later. But yes. So you have to sort of put your toys back as you found them. But so I haven't been too strict. Where if an author's come to me and said, I've got this great idea and I want to do this. And I'm going, 5 years ago, we had a book which might contradict that. I kind of feel like these are possible stories. I don't, it's a kind of a vague, I think it's my fan fiction background which makes me think like that. I don't want to have things which are completely contradictory. And because everything has to go back into the box at the end, there's always going to be a level of continuity because they've all got to fit with the show. But, so if I don't know, if two characters have a conversation in, book A, I don't always expect the author of book Z to have, include a reference to that conversation, if you see what I mean, or that event or that series of events. Although sometimes our writers do because they're also fans and they've read the books.
Yeah,
too,
they keep the internal continuity as well. I remember you introduced a British character in Trial by Fire, and the first time that I noticed it, I was reading book 1 of the Matter of Honor series, and they specifically referenced her, and I was like, this is good stuff. This is we are paying attention or at least trying to, just as much as Brad and Rob and all the others behind the production did. Have you ever been in a situation where in after accepting some of this material, you were like midway through and on some of the content and be like, we have to tweak something, we have to reverse something because we've missed this big chunk over here, or Stargate is doing this over here because it's in production right now?
Well, the process is that we'll have an outline, and then that outline has to be approved by MGM. So usually that will get rid of anything too major. Especially when the show was in production, that was much more important.
Correct.
And there were times, I can't think of a specific example, but there were times where they said don't go there because the show might touch on that topic or that subject. Especially, we couldn't do anything set post season 10 of SG or post the end of SG-1 whilst Atlantis was in production, just in case it somehow contradicted what happened in Atlantis. So things like that, we were constrained. I don't think we've got fully through a novel where we've had to change a large element of the plot, although we do get notes from MGM which I send back to my authors, and sometimes they are required to change some things, some elements. Sometimes just I don't think Jack would say that line, or I don't think his character would behave in this way in this situation, or it's a bit too dark. Sometimes we go a bit dark, and MGM are like,
especially with Jack.
yeah. Jack has a dark side.
He has a black ops side,
Exactly.
And there are levels of his persona where angels fear to tread. I mean, especially in the 80s.
I think that's absolutely. It's what makes him such a compelling character. He's very light on the outside, and he's all, just keep it light, keep everything a joke, but that there's a backstory.
Right, exactly. He's SG-1's Han Solo.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Under certain circumstances, this man can be a killer.
Yeah. And has been. He must have been in the
absolutely. Past. That's one of my favorite lines from him in season 1 with Korai. I have spent a number of years in service of my country, and I have been ordered to do some damn distasteful things. And you just have to ask yourself, tell me more.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Which one? Yeah, go ahead.
That tell me more. That is the sort of the nub of fan fiction for me. There's a story there you could write. And many people have. What happened in Berlin, what happened back in the other things he's done in the past, where we know he's. That's what I love about it. We
saw a glimpse of East Germany in.
Yes,
in Gamekeeper in season 2, and I mean that's one piece of a whole larger operation.
Yeah.
So you not only do you run this thing, but you have written as well. What are some, before we get into stories,
Mm.
What have been some of your favorite characters to write for, and whose voices have you found personally difficult to to write for the most, and whose have come in loud and clear?
Okay, interesting question. I find Jack quite easy to write for. I think I guess he's my favorite character, so I enjoy writing Jack. Teal'c is hard to write, I'm not going to lie. I think most people would agree, most authors would agree that Teal'c is probably the hardest to write.
He has the least to say. Well,
exactly.
he talks the least. He has the least to say is not true.
His internal monologue is actually very interesting, and sometimes I've found he is the perfect character for a particular scene. You know,
correct.
You're thinking now, whose point of view I'm going to write this one from? And sometimes Teal'c is perfect because he doesn't say much, but it's all going on in there, and you can use him to reveal what the other characters are thinking. But his voice is quite difficult because he speaks obviously quite formally, but you don't want it to sound like a pastiche, so you have to try and keep it not too sort of indeed a meal every 5 minutes.
Right.
So
yeah. No, it would get old.
It right. Daniel, I also find quite interesting to write because, of course, he's the moral voice of the team. So if you need a scene that's you know, if you're trying to put across some moral complexity, then Daniel's the one. And probably in terms of personality, I'm probably most like Daniel. You know, I have a sort of history background. I'm a bit not as educated. I don't have 2 PhDs, but I have half a PhD.
Speak 22 different languages, yeah.
Yeah. No, sadly, no other languages. So I like I like Daniel. I like writing him. He can be really interesting, and I find him quite easy to write as well. From just, I think, because I sort of relate to him quite well. And Sam, of course I love Sam as well, but I love them all. But maybe she might be one of my most tricky characters to write, I think, because she's quite rule bound and she's quite
analytical.
Yeah, she's analytical and scientific, which I'm not. So
right.
The technobabble is quite difficult. You know, I'm sure when they write the script, they probably put something like, get some technobabble put in here, and they have someone who'll come and provide it. But I have to make it up myself, so I find that quite hard.
Well, everything that comes out of her mouth is really on the straight and narrow.
Yes, exactly.
And with Daniel, it's of passion, and with Jack, it's of chaos.
Controlled chaos, though.
Controlled chaos.
Like if you let that control slip, it would be bad news. So I like that element.
Have all of the books been written in third person, or have any of them taken one of the characters' perspective through the entire thing?
No, they're all done. Just trying to think back over all 60. I'm pretty sure they will all be done. Certainly the ones I've written would be multiple point of view, third person.
Okay.
So. Not only necessarily the 4 main characters from SG-1 or Atlantis, but sometimes the bad guys and some original characters get their own point of view as well, which is quite fun. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the shows have always been about SG-1 and the SG-1 team and Shepard's Atlantis team, you know, and getting outside of that, especially with the villains or the enemies or the adversaries, to really play into their angle and their perspective. I mean, is so much of what sci-fi is about. You know, let's take a look at their enemy and get inside their heads and see why they're thinking what they're thinking. You know, see A, what is revolting about them, but B, what is relatable about them as well. You know, that's a little tricky. That's a little trickier. What are some of your favorites that you've written?
That I've written.
And we should note, go to StargateNovels.com and follow along if you'd like.
Yeah, they're all on there. I guess the Apocalypse trilogy, which I wrote with my friend and writing partner Laura, was really, that was a fun thing to write. we both vowed we were never going to write time travel again when we got to the end of it, because it was a bit of a nightmare keeping all the different timelines and threads straight. But the first book, we just had this idea of how it was going to end, and I think some of our readers were like not too happy with the ending of the first book, because it was a bit of a cliffhanger. But I enjoyed the plot of that. It was set on Earth. We even set it in Scotland, near where my Laura lives, actually.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun. I still get people coming up to me at conventions with the Matter of Honor books.
Yes. Yes, there's a continuity change there if you follow what happened at the end of A Matter of Time.
Yeah.
So, which is all I'll say. So you guys changed things a little bit.
We wanted to give it those poor guys stuck on the planet. We wanted to give them a better ending.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was too sad to leave them there, but it was an interesting premise, and that was one of the books that really follows directly on from an episode title. And I still get people who love those books, and that was, I wrote those a long time ago now. Mm-hmm. So it's good that they've stood the test of time. I also really, of my own ones I've written, I also really like the novella Permafrost that I wrote, which is a kind of slight horror twist on Stargate, which is it's like a 30,000 word short novella, but I enjoyed writing that one as well.
All right. And some of the highlights from other authors over the year, if you could narrow some of those down. I know we can't bring up everybody and everyone, no. That's a huge amount of content, and I advise everyone to go and check out StargateNovels.com, but any of the ones that have really stood out to you over the years that have really withstood the test of time.
I mean, there's the Legacy series, which we maybe will discuss in a moment, which is the continuation of Atlantis, which was done by, three amazing authors, writing as a team. That was fantastic. I loved all of those books. They were just a joy to edit, and absolutely brilliant. As we were talking earlier about, going into the culture of the bad guys, they completely expanded on the Wraith culture to such an extent that is in my head canon now, everything they wrote about the Wraith. And I would advise anyone who is an Atlantis fan to read those books, because they're fantastic. When we first started, the first author who I approached was a fan fiction writer whose stuff I loved, Sabina Bauer, and she wrote the first book, Trial by Fire, which and a couple of others of our books, and she's got a really forensic knowledge of the show, and her books are they are tight, they're very plotty. She writes a great Jack O'Neill.
Yes.
Yeah. Really, really good. And she comes, what I love about her stuff is she comes, and this is true of the Legacy authors as well, she comes at it from a fan's perspective. So she was writing. There are writers who write, writers for hire, but Sabina is a writer of passion, and she comes to it from that point of view. Susanna Sinard is another one who writes as a fan, and you can tell from the writing. I'm sure they're 100% convinced that you can tell when a fan has written a book who's a real fan. You can be a pro writer and a fan, but someone who's written it from a perspective of love for the show and the characters.
Of reverence.
Yeah, exactly. And just being delighted to be able to spend more time with these characters. That's why people write fan fiction, and that right from the beginning, from the name of our company, that is what we wanted to get into our books. We didn't want it just to be, just put out there as, put a Stargate label on it and someone will buy it. We came at it, and we continue to come at it from the point of view of fans who love the show, who want to write stories for the show. And so all of my favorite books are written by people who are massive fans of the show. John Cannon is another big fan of the show. We're working on something new with him at the moment. So yeah.
So I do. Go ahead.
Sorry, carry on.
Sorry.
Carry on.
Oh, thank you. I do want to ask. It's been almost a couple of years since a book has come out, and I wanted to preempt that question before the fans bring it up. Can you give us an update on that? What's going on there?
Well, we're still ongoing. The pandemic has caused some, as it has with everything, some delays in all areas of the process, and everyone involved. We've got 2 books in development at the moment, which we're hoping, we'd be able to get going soon. We've been busy with our own lives during this situation, as everyone is working. I have a day job, which has been quite impacted by the pandemic. MGM has also obviously had a lot going on. So all these things have fed together to slow things up more than we would have liked. But we've got 2 books really close to being ready. And as soon as we have more information about when we can get those out, we will be banging the drum loudly. So I'm afraid I can't give you any dates because we don't know any yet. But as soon as we get everything sorted, we will be we'll be putting some more things out there. There are more things in the works.
Perfect.
I can say that much.
Yeah, Darren and Gabriel will be very happy to know when we can start reporting on more Stargate content, because if there's ever been a time to hunker down and read, this has been it.
Yeah.
So exactly.
Yeah.
The Legacy series specifically. A lot of fans rightfully felt cut short by Atlantis ending the way that it did. The Wraith were left unresolved. I think that was really the big thing that's floating on out there, is that we have the Ancients' perhaps greatest adversary, at least the greatest adversary in the Pegasus galaxy, are still left wreaking havoc on Pegasus worlds. And you guys took a direction. So tell us about the process that you went through to convince MGM to tell a post-Atlantis story.
Well,
Season 5, post-Atlantis season 5 story.
Exactly. So Joe Graham came to me and said, she'd written a couple of books for us, and she's a fantastic writer, another fan fiction writer. And she came to me and she said, I've got this idea. We're thinking of doing it as fan fiction, but I don't, if it would be amazing if you could get MGM to agree to do it. And she sort of ran it past me, this idea of a 6-book series, a virtual season 6 is how she pitched it to me. And I was like, yes, I want to do this. Well, we went to MGM and we basically pitched it as that. The show was off the air. There was no risk that we were going to tread on any toes in terms of, what was going to happen next by that point.
Had the plug on Stargate Extinction already been pulled at this point? I'm guessing. Yeah. So that DVD movie was not going to happen.
Yeah. So exactly. So, we just went to them and said, we've got this great idea, and they knew the authors already, and to our surprise they were like, okay, well, go for it. So we did. And it's honestly just is an amazing series. I can't believe what a great job, well, I can, because I knew they were
absolutely.
Joe Graham, Melissa Scott, and Amy Griswold. I mean, the three of them. Melissa Scott, any science fiction fan will know, is extremely well respected author in her own right, and so is Joe Graham. And they write their own original fiction. So we were so blessed to have them working with us on the series, the Legacy series, and I think anyone who's read it will agree that it's just, it's superb science fiction writing.
What's the mile up view, looking down on it, premise of this to entice the Atlantis fans,
right?
Who were robbed of a season 6?
Right, yeah. So season 5 ends with Atlantis in the harbor at San Francisco. Then the Wraith still in control in the Pegasus Galaxy. And basically, the Legacy series picks up Atlantis and it sends it back to Pegasus with the team on board. Various political shenanigans allow that to happen. And on the way, an incident happens which strands it in a different bit of the galaxy, not where they were intending to go. I don't want to spoil too much, but something happens to one of our favorite characters, which, changes him quite a lot, and really is the first time in one of the books where we've changed something from canon, and it was a pretty big step, and we were pretty surprised that MGM allowed us to do it.
You're talking about something that happens to Rodney?
To Rodney, yeah. Okay. To Rodney. I don't know whether to say it or not.
I have not read them, and I know it, so it's out there on the web.
Okay. So. Well, okay. So Rodney gets turned into a wraith for a period of time.
Jeez.
And through his point of view, we learn about the wraith. So he is in a hive. He knows Guide, as Todd, as he is called in Atlantis, but of course the wraith don't call themselves that. They have their own names for each other.
Yeah, you had to do something for the novels. You had to distinguish them somehow.
Well, yes, exactly. And it's not like they're just going to call each other, you over there. So they must have some kind of name. And the authors came up with this idea that because they're a telepathic race, they would consider themselves as sort of their names are kind of their personality or how they are. So Rodney is known as a Quicksilver, which I think is a great name for his brain, how he works. So we explore the wraith culture through Rodney's experience. He doesn't realize that he's human. He thinks he's a wraith for a time being, and eventually the truth all kind of comes out. Meanwhile, the rest of the team are off doing battle. There's a new race queen who is a new enemy, but also a potential avenue to peace with the wraith.
Interesting. All right.
Towards the end, so it's a 6-book arc that tells the whole story, which essentially is a season's worth of story in 6 books, and then there is some other books set afterwards, which bring in a couple of other storylines and some novels and novellas set in that universe, the Legacy universe, which tie into it, but which are standalone books. So there's really a whole season. Well, it's more than a season. There's a whole sort of world, the Legacy universe, which have been created. Yeah, and they're just good. They're just really good books.
And I understand you play with the Vanir, the Pegasus Asgard as well.
Yep. They crop up in the 2 of the sort of coda books. They come into it, and we bring back some characters who met their demise in Atlantis, but we bring them back. So,
are you looking to continue this series further?
I would
keep the door open.
Yes, I would be open to any new books in the Legacy series. that's really up to the authors whether they have the time, because like I said, they're both Melissa and Joe, the primary sort of authors around it. Amy also writes with them, but they write their own stuff as well. So it's their, if they come to me and say, and Melissa or some, I think Melissa has got some other ideas that she may, if she has time, she may be interested in doing, but at the moment there's nothing in the works. But I would love for anything. I would be very happy to see anything else in the Legacy universe. I love them.
I have something that I'm sure has been across your table before that you've answered. I am a huge Audible fan, and I spend 30, 40 hours on the road every single week. I would very much love to be able to go through. I don't have a tremendous amount of free time. This is some of the free time that I have. I used to do this show, and what little I have left to read, I don't physically read nearly as much as I'd like to, but audiobooks. I mean, there were audio dramas that were created by a separate company. But I think that Big Finish Audio Productions, but I think, some of especially the Legacy series, I think would be fascinating to have adapted as an unabridged book, audiobook.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you asked that question. That is something we are looking at. Yes. Now there's a couple of issues around that. The main one being audio. It's quite expensive.
This is true.
To produce. Yeah. So, but it's definitely something that we're looking at. We are and have discussed and are discussing with MGM. We very much hope that that's going to be something that we'll be able to do, and we will. Yes, we want to do it. Audiobooks are just massive at the moment. I listen to them myself a lot. I love them. I always I buy the audio version of a book that I've read. So I read a book. If I love it, then I'll listen to it on audio as well. Kind of like watching a movie.
Correct. It's a whole different experience.
It's completely different. So I really want to get into that. We've got one of the things, I guess I can be honest here, right? One of the things that makes me, which I think is going to be tricky, is finding a voice actor who is familiar with the show so that they can, do the character voices. So when you normally do an audio book, obviously you have a book and then the actor can interpret those characters as
Correct.
He or she chooses. In this case, you're going to have to, you have to know how Teal'c sounds. You need to be able to do not an impersonation, but it's got to sound like Jack or Daniel or whoever's speaking. And that's quite a detailed level of knowledge. So we would need an actor who could do that. Now, I can hear people going, "Oh, why don't you use one of the actors from the show?"
That's expensive. So they are working actors.
Yes.
So
yes, and I think our pockets are not that deep, I'm afraid. I don't know, but I suspect that is the case.
Well, as someone who loves them, all the best of luck on that, because that is a big deal. And like a lot of the Star Trek audiobooks, not the more recent ones. A lot of the more recent ones have not had the Star Trek actors, but the abridged ones definitely did have the Star Trek cast. And I'm just putting it out there. I have recorded amateur audiobooks before, and I would be at your disposal.
Well, thank you. That is an interesting fact.
Absolutely.
We are, we are audio newbies, but we'd never published a book before we started this, so I'm not afraid that we won't figure it out.
Podcasts are a huge thing, and we're spending so much more time, with our devices. So I think that it would be a lucrative market to tap into.
I think so. I suspect that there's a whole a load of fans who don't read the books because, like in your case, they don't have time to sit and read. I've noticed I think our audience is probably mostly female, and I think we would hit more male readers through Audible, because I often get fans male fans come up to us at conventions and say, "Who have you got this on Audible?" Because I don't really read, but I like to listen to audiobooks.
Exactly. There's something about like the YouTube audience.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, skews male, and so does mine.
It,
Despite the fact that the dedicated Stargate fan base, if you go to a convention, it is predominantly female. So just one of those little quirks. I think that you guys could really have a gold mine there. So
yeah, definitely. So we're really excited about that. We've just got to, we'll need to invest the money, and we'll need to just work out the best way of doing it before. So I think what we might do is we might record a shorter book first, possibly one of the novellas, just to test out our process. If we don't, we have to get this approved by MGM.
Correct.
So we need to test that process out as well. Finding actors, just working it all out. We might go with a sort of a lower cost. Obviously shorter book is cheaper because it doesn't take the actors so long. And once we've got that figured, then I would desperately love to do the Legacy series. I think that would be fantastic. But also, some SG-1, keep the balance going. We just got to work out how it's all going to work. But yeah, it's definitely on our to-do list.
Good. I'm very glad to hear this. I have a number of fan questions that have been submitted.
Okay.
And cool. I'd like to run them by you.
Yeah.
Burned Backhouse. Is there an approval process with MGM and brand owners for each novel? If so, how does it work? How does that process go?
Okay, yes. So each novel is approved by MGM. We get an outline from the author, which we agree with the author. Then we send that to MGM.
So you guys are the first filter in terms of what's appropriate or not.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll talk to the author about their idea, and then we'll ask. The outline is, we usually have a short outline, which is just maybe a page, which we send to MGM so they can approve the general outline of the book. Then we'll get a long outline, which is about 4,000 words-ish, 4,000 or 5,000 words. Not exactly chapter by chapter, but it is a detailed breakdown of all of the plots, what happens to all the characters at the end. It's not like, and then dun, 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 you need to have the whole book worked out in outline form. Then that goes to MGM and they approve that as well, make sure there's nothing they don't like or any inconsistencies. So once that's been approved, then the author is given the go-ahead to write the book. Then I will edit the first draft of the book. We'll go backwards and forwards until we're happy with that. And then that whole book goes to MGM, and then they will do another read through, and they will come back with comments. As my authors will tell you, sometimes quite detailed comments that, no, you can't do this, don't like this, yes, this is good, or I don't understand this, or this isn't something I feel is appropriate to the show. We've had to tone down the violence a couple of times in books.
Okay.
That kind of thing. And
to match the tonality of the series.
Yeah, to match the tone of the show. If they feel it's not quite, it's a bit too dark or a bit too, whatever. So so then there's another to and fro there. So those comments go back to the author who makes some changes, comes back to me. I go through their changes, and then I reply to all of MGM's comments. This is how we've addressed it. So then it goes back to MGM, and they go through it, and they agree or disagree, and we keep going backwards and forwards until everybody is happy, and then that's when it goes out. And that can be a very lengthy process sometimes.
What's been the average turnaround time for a book?
I couldn't say average because it has varied quite wildly, but there are some which have taken probably more than a year to get approved.
Wow.
And some which have gone much quicker. So it depends on the number of different things. What else is going on at MGM?
Right.
What else we've got going? What's going on with it? Because you've got, an author can be busy. He can't get the changes back to you.
You've all got day jobs.
We've all got day jobs, exactly. So it's all being fitted in around our life. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So but we hopefully less than we would aim. Ideally for sort of 3 or 4 months, but sometimes it's longer. Unfortunately, it has been longer.
Claire Cowan, did you spend any time on set?
I did. This is really exciting. Right back at the beginning, when we first started, me and Sabina Bauer wangled a trip to the set at Bridge Studio where they were filming Stargate. I can't actually remember what episode it was. It was.
Was it Atlantis, SG-1, both?
It was SG-1.
Okay.
It was it SG-1? Yeah. It was SG-1. Yes, it was. Of course it was. I was just thinking, yes, it was great. So we had a meeting with some of the writers. We met Brad Wright and Robert Cooper and Joe Malozzi in their office upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So nervous the whole time. I was like, my heart was going like this the whole time. We had some good conversations with them. They were sort of just asking what we were doing. Then we went down onto the set and we watched them doing a bit of filming. Amanda Tapping came and talked to us. She was lovely. Yes, Michael Shanks came and talked to us, and he was really nice. So we watched. Yeah, we just sort of stood there.
Isn't it
in the back? Yeah.
It's such a, like, on one hand, it's such a surreal experience, and on the other, there is a fourth wall that is broken forever.
Yeah.
Too at the same time. It's an interesting. I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. But there is something that you sacrifice once you see, how the sausage is made.
Yeah, quite exactly. So. Yeah, they were filming some scene, and it was involving Daniel running down a corridor, firing a gun, and
okay.
We all had to put ear things in because it was quite loud, and but there was no sort of obviously no lasers and things flying about. It was all like you, practical. And it's like you've got to do it again. I've got to do it again, kind of thing. There's wires everywhere, and it's quite a small, cramped space in this little corridor. We went to but the really cool thing was we got to see the Atlantis set as well, and we got to see the SG-1 set, and I got to sit behind Hammond's desk, sit in the chair and stand on the ramp of the Stargate and all of that. It was amazing. Yeah, it was really, really fun. And we went into the Atlantis set, and I don't think they were filming there at the time, but we saw the gate room.
The atrium, yeah.
Yeah, the atrium, yeah. So it was so exciting. The whole time I was so nervous that Richard Dean Anderson was going to walk in, and I thought, oh God, if he walks in, I'm just going to blush so much. But he didn't, so I was quite glad. I was sort of disappointed and glad at the same time. I don't think I would be able to keep my cool. But so we did, and that was a long time ago. It must have been 2003 or 4, but it was before we put anything out, I think.
Wow.
But yeah.
What a great experience.
It was fantastic.
Laurie Steinle, 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 and Goran Adamowski love the Stargate books. Any plans to write more? So the 2 books are in development. Right.
Yes. So we've got 2 in development at the moment. One by John Cannon, which is a really cool idea. It's a novella, but how to explain this? It's a story in which the team gets divided in 2. 2 characters go one way, 2 characters go the other way, and they both find themselves on opposite sides of a conflict on this planet.
So, SG-1 or Atlantis?
It's SG-1.
Okay.
So you have one side, you've got Sam, and Jack is on the other team. Jack and Daniel on one side, Sam and Teal'c. I think it's that way around. It's been a while since I read it. The first, so you go into the story and you read it from Sam's point of view, and then you get to the crisis point in the story, and then it starts again from Jack's point of view. The idea is it's a bit choose your own adventure. You can choose who's you're going to read first, and then you read the other, and then they come back together at the end, and
so they're reversible if you choose to.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. You could say, so at the beginning we haven't formatted it or anything yet, but at the beginning it'll be something like choose which one
to follow first.
Who you want to follow first, Jack or Sam, and you'll get 2 different perspectives on the same story. So that's quite fun. So that's a
great idea.
Yeah, it is great. That was John Cannon's idea. And, it worked out really well. So I'm looking forward to getting that one out. And then we've got that's a novella, and then we have a full length novel coming up by a new author to us. I won't say too much about it. It hasn't all been approved yet, but it's going to be picking up from the episode Watergate, and it's going to explore Jack's relationship with Mayborn and what happened to allow Jack to develop a more trusting relationship with Mayborn. So
yeah, after he became a Russian spy.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. So that's another interesting story. So yeah, so those two are currently in production, and hopefully, yes. As for me personally, I have not got any plans at the moment to write anymore, but that's because I've got quite a lot of other stuff that I'm writing, because I do my own writing on the side, non-Stargate related, plus I have a day job.
Right.
Plus
a kid, plus a family, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jeez. Dan23, have you ever been told you got something? I'm interested to hear your reaction to this, because your filter is so high, turned up so high. Have you ever been told you got something wrong in a book and it didn't fit with show canon? Or maybe they said that it didn't and you had to correct them.
When you say told, I mean, we may have had some comments and reviews and things. I obviously don't read all of the reviews. We've never had come as an issue or anything like, that we've needed to go back and change a book. Usually it's more a point of view, or, that I don't think this would have happened, or, I think we're pretty good at catching anything that's actually, goes against canon. And the person at MGM who does our approvals, she's watched all the episodes, as well. So, and our authors, we use a lot of authors who are very immersed in the story. So I can't recall any issue where someone has said this is completely wrong. I don't think we've made any big mistakes. No, it is, no one's brought it to my attention.
Have you ever taken a character like Ford, who was on a Stargate team at some point before Atlantis, or Colonel Young from Universe, who was, I mean, these people were a part of Stargate Command before their stories picked up, and added them peripherally to one of the stories that were set in an earlier SG-1 season?
I'm sure if we've added them earlier, someone might tell me that I'm mistaken. But we have certainly picked up some of those, smaller characters. We have delved into their backstory more, sort of within a book, or used them as a more major.
I remember Diana Botsford had a real soft spot for SG-13, Colonel Dixon, and his team. Yeah. They pop in, in her stories too.
We've used Dixon in several books, actually. He's quite a popular character amongst our authors. We used him in the Apocalypse series. And I'm trying to think, I've lost on the list of books. I'm trying to think which one it is who uses him. There's a whole book which is actually dedicated to him. I'm trying to remember which one it was.
It's amazing, those little characters that pop in for one or two episodes.
Yeah, they just kind of grab your...
Yeah, they're kind of like static cling, you can't get rid of them. There's something about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't think we've inserted them earlier, although, it is the sort of thing that our authors do, and I may just not be remembering. It's quite a lot of books over quite a lot of years.
Well, that's it. And you know what? We've got the hive mind here in the comments also working. If there's anything that stands out, I'm sure the mods will let me know.
Yeah.
I think Austin answered, but I'll go ahead and bring it back up again. Austin, will any of the Stargate Atlantis books, specifically the ones that take place after season 5, ever be on Audible? So there you go.
Yes. It's good to know there's interest. It's just this. That's one of the things, to know there'll be a market for them. So hopefully, we'll do our sort of trial balloon and see how that goes. But yeah, that would definitely be one of my first choices once we start doing audio.
Jet Ison, how do you submit an idea? Can you still submit ideas?
We kind of switch on and off with submissions. So at the moment we're not taking any submissions, but
okay.
we may open up again once things get moving. When we do, we usually will have we'll usually advertise it and have a link on our website where there's like writer's guidance about what we're looking for, and then we would ask for, as I described before, a short outline and a long outline, and just some information about previous writing experience or something like that. It's quite time consuming when we do open up for submissions because there's just the two of us, so it takes quite a while to read through, but we found some great authors that way, so we are keen to do it as circumstances allow. But when we do, we'll tell people, we'll maybe tweet about it or put it up on Facebook and link to a page on our website where we can submit ideas.
All right.
Or outlines.
Teresa, were you ever inspired by any other sci-fi series?
Yes. Started writing fan fiction for Voyager.
Ah.
Yeah, that was
Poor ship lost in the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah, I had a soft spot for that.
Who was your favorite to write for? Who was your favorite character?
It was Tom Paris.
You liked Tom.
I did. I don't know why. I haven't watched it for years, but I'm actually doing a big Star Trek rewatch with my son at the moment. We've done all the Next Generation. We're on to Deep Space Nine, so eventually we'll get back to Voyager. But yeah, I wrote Tom Paris, and B'Elanna Torres. I kind of shipped them. So.
Yeah, big fans of those characters too.
Oh, good. Yeah,
absolutely. T. Pete 202. Who's your favorite villain that you've created?
Oh, that I've created.
Well,
I like Val. I wrote him as a sort of baddie in the Macaroona books.
Yes.
And I like the whole sort of psychodrama, I guess, with him and Jack. So I enjoyed writing him. I don't think I've created an original bad guy, so I would say Baal is probably my favorite one for having written. Yeah.
So you were responsible for SG-1 Unleashed, right? That story?
Yes.
So you took Sekhmet into a different direction.
Yes.
I loved those first 2 episodes, and it is a crying shame that they are now inaccessible. I think that there's just something wrong about that. I mean, keep them available so that people can play. I guess because as phones evolve, as technology evolves, you can't play them as much. But they were so cool. They were well done, and the voice acting and everything else was just great.
I know, it's such a shame about that because I'd actually written the 3rd episode as well before it all, the plug was pulled on that series. It was really fun. It was really fun to work on, and that it all kind of came together in the 3rd episode. And then
let me preempt you. That dude right there wanted to know: can you reveal anything about what the story plan was for the 3rd episode of Unleashed that never saw the light of day? Because he says Anubis showing up was hinted at. That setup and teaser for episode 3 were great.
Okay, so let me try and remember. Yes. Now, so an interesting thing here is that basically when they asked me to do the script for the Unleashed stories, that the idea was they wanted to sort of do a kind of reset, if you like, and they wanted to create how to put it, like reboot the team in a way. So the idea was that the first 3 episodes were going to create this, it was going to end up with a kind of time travel situation whereby all of the ghouls and everything had returned, and SG-1 went into a sort of alternate universe type thing where you had SG-1 as they were, and a lot of the bad guys who had by this point in canon being killed off had been sort of revived,
Restored.
and that was going to be Anubis's sort of plan with the device that he was trying to create. And so at the end of the third episode, you were going to have a situation where, if I'm trying to remember correctly, SG-1 had sort of gone into this unleashed universe where they were unleashed from sort of rules of Stargate Command in a way, and all the bad guys had been sort of, I guess, returned by this device. Forgive me, because my memory of exactly what was going to happen is a bit shaky. But what happened, that got cancelled. But I really enjoyed the idea of that, and that formed the basis for what became the Apocalypse trilogy. So a lot of the ideas that would have come out in that third episode were put into that series.
Understood. Okay, so that's great. So even more reason to check out the Apocalypse trilogy then.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's not exactly, but a lot of the elements. The elements are in there. Yeah. I really need to reread that script so I can answer questions.
Absolutely.
It was quite a while ago now.
Goran Ananowski. This is a fair point. Have you considered putting out any SGU content?
Yeah, we get asked that, but every so often we get asked that. So we had the license to do SGU books for a while, and we put out the novelization of the pilot episode. But I struggled to find authors who wanted to write SGU, and then the series was cancelled, and we felt it just wasn't worth the cost of the license. We weren't going to make enough money from it to make it worth paying the license fee for it. So we dropped it from our license.
So you've done the license fee for SG-1 individually and for Atlantis individually, rather than getting a franchise license.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So we started with the SG-1 license, and then we added the SGA license.
Got it. It comes down to numbers, it really does.
Yeah, and we get a few questions. We do get people saying, "Would you do any SGU?" But we don't get a huge number of people, so it makes me wonder whether there'd be a market for it.
That's fair. Jonas, which book should I read if I want to read a book that deals with ancient lore? Ancient with a capital A.
Yes, the ancients. Right. Let me just consult my list of books. Who is that? You have ancients. Okay. There's a good book by Melissa Scott called Ouroboros, which deals with the ancients. That's SG-1 book.
When Daniel Jackson discovers the location of a lost ancient laboratory, he uncovers a powerful device, a prototype technology designed by Janus to supersede the Stargate network. Ooh.
Yeah. Melissa's a fantastic author, so I would recommend anything by her. But yes, if you're interested in Atlantis. And there was the ancients. There was another Atlantis one. Just let me. It's quite an old one, so I'm going back. Well, now if you don't mind a little sort of horror in your books, I would suggest Angelus by Peter Evans, Stargate Atlantis.
When Colonel Ellis, Michael Beach's character, encounters the ancient Angelus in the borders of Asuran space, the Atlantis team think their luck has changed, but all is not what it seems, and even Angelus does not know the truth of his identity. Okay.
Yeah, that's another good one. He's a good writer.
So the Asurans are the Pegasus replicators.
Yeah.
So Niam's people. And Charles Emerson Winchester III's people.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, one more final recommendation is Exogenesis it's another Atlantis book, Sunny Whitelaw and Elizabeth Christensen. Yeah, that's another ancient-based book, Atlantis book.
Okay. Beckett, Carson Beckett disturbs the rest of two ancients, and the consequences are devastating. Those ancients, man. They left so much behind, including some of themselves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're just fodder for story material.
Yeah. So. Yeah, there's a lot of it. They crop up every so often.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah. Grigory 1. What do you think of there being a Stargate version of the Halo Legends mini animated movies?
Oh, like an animated series.
I think so. I think that's what he's getting at. Yeah.
Well, I would be in favor of any new Stargate content, So I think the advantage of an animated series would obviously be that you can have Jack and Teal'c and Sam and Daniel, you don't have to rely on the actors.
Correct.
Willing and able to do it.
Did you see Stargate Infinity? Have you ever seen it?
No, I haven't. No.
The pilot is worth watching. The quality, unfortunately, was not all there in terms of like the animation. I think we've been spoiled by like Batman the Animated Series and things like that over the years. So it's definitely not there. But I recommend it to people who have young kids, who they're trying to get, at some point they're going to grow up and start watching Stargate with their folks. I cannot recommend it enough for that, because it is every episode has every episode's a little morality tale, like all the best of science fiction. So let me see. Lori says again, will Fandemonium be at, are you planning on being at the next Stargate convention in Chicago, if and when that happens? Saw Sally and a few authors there, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. We had such a good time in Chicago. We've been twice, I think, there. Yes, we would love to go. It will depend on, obviously, travel. And it's coming from the UK, it's kind of expensive, but we do have family in the US, so that kind of combine the trip makes it a little bit more affordable. So if and when that happens, we would love to go, and we'd love to go to GateCon in Vancouver as well.
Very good.
Caveat cost applying.
Absolutely. Dan 23, have you ever brought a character from the show who was thought missing or dead back?
Yes, we have. I would refer you to. So these are a couple of books at the end of the Legacy series called Unascended and the third part, and they bring back a character who died in. Should I say who it is?
Well, look at the cover art. I'll let them go to the website and check it out.
The cover art kind of gives it away. Yes, we did do that.
Yeah, there was for this particular character, I never thought that they got their proper comeuppance. So when I heard about this, I was very happy. So,
yeah.
Eva, was it hard to write Sam and Jack scenes in terms of staying in character with the feelings which couldn't be expressed but were there? Were you a Sam Jack shipper?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am a Sam and Jack shipper. So I didn't find that. I have written a lot of fan fiction, so I had quite a lot of experience of writing their feelings. But of course, in the books, it's all subtext. So
correct. It's beneath the surface, as it were.
Yeah, exactly. Literally. So I enjoy writing that kind of stuff where you just can reveal it to those who want to see it. In a word or a sort of look or a reference or something. And of course MGM are going to keep us on the straight and narrow path. They're not going to let anything slip through that they don't think is consistent with the show. So,
not unless you're doing an alternate universe or something like that, where you can run amok with alternates. So for sure. Sally, this has been fantastic. It has been so good to catch up with you, seeing your face. I am really excited about the content that's moving forward with SG4, with Brad's next venture, and and for all the peripheral content that comes along with the continuing franchise. This thing is by no means dead. It's just hibernating, and fans like you have helped to absolutely keep it alive. So it really means a lot to me to have you on.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been really fun to talk about Stargate. Yeah.
Any other resources that we want to point out? I mean, obviously StargateNovels.com. We've been hitting that pretty good. So where to buy? So these are. Do you still sell hard copies, or are you mostly ebook now?
No, they're all available in print and ebook.
They're all available. Okay.
Yep, you should be able to order them from bookstores or go online from Amazon or other book providers if you don't.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't they like only available as print to order at a certain point?
Well, they are print on demand.
Print on demand. That's what I mean.
Yeah, that technology has improved.
Wow, great.
Great deal. So they may not all be available print on demand at the moment. I'm not entirely. No, they are. No, I tell a lie. They are all available print on demand.
And they're on Kindle too, right?
Kindle and Nook and all the other ebook providers, and so you should just be able to order. That technology has got so much better now that it's allowed us to get everything available for print. When we were doing short run print or paperback, it was just the logistics were extremely difficult. So this has been a real benefit to us, and they look great. They look fantastic when they're printed. So yeah.
Yeah, some of this technology has just come a long way. Like especially like with T-shirts, print on demand as well. I mean, it's it's really caught up with the rest of us. So it's great to hear. I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you again taking the time, and all the best to you. And you know what? I'd love to have more of your authors on. So please, let them know.
I will see if I can round up some and do a little panel or something.
I'd love to do that in the next month or two.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
yeah, that's great.
For sure. Well, you take care of yourself. I'm going to wrap up the show on this end, and I'll be emailing you soon.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Thank
Great
you,
to
Sally.
talk to you.
It's
Thanks,
good to
David.
see you again. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.
Sally Malcolm, Fandemonium. All right. We have a big day planned. In 45 minutes, Sue-Ann Braun, also from the UK, is going to be joining us as well. So we're going to get the show ready for her. Okay. Dial the Gate has sponsored with Big J Customs for the month of April to give you a chance to get your very own custom pop figure. To enter to win these items, you need to use a desktop or laptop computer and go to visit dialthegate.com. Scroll down to Submit Trivia Questions. Your trivia may be used in a future episode of Dial the Gate, either for our monthly trivia night or for a special guest to ask me in a round of trivia. There are only 3 slots for trivia, 1 easy, 1 medium, and 1 hard, and only 1 needs to be filled in, but you're more than welcome to submit up to 3. The submission form does not currently work for mobile devices. Your trivia must be received before May the 1st. And if you're the lucky winner, I'll be notifying you via your email to get your address. Please be sure to check out our partner's website for more Stargate-related merchandise at bigjcustomsart.com. So if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks so much to my team, Tracy, Keith, Jeremy, Reese, Anthony, Summer, Linda, Gate Gabber Fury, Jennifer Kirby. You guys make the show possible. We're going to go ahead and get the show ready for Sue-Ann in about 45 minutes here. 40 minutes. She'll be back with us to discuss Hathor Host Season 2 and to announce her guest list for the rest of the season. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate. Thanks again to Sally for joining us. We'll see you on the other side.